So picture this. It's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, pretty late.
Yeah, middle of the night in the Thar Desert. And it's back in 2013.
Right.
There's this paranormal investigation team, right?
Right.
And they've just wrapped up a sweep of this completely deserted, totally silent village.
Just out in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. So they're walking back to their vehicles, totally alone in the pitch black. But when they get to their car, they see something that should just be physically impossible.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, materializing right there, like right in the thick layer of desert dust on the car's bonnet, are the fresh handprints of a child.
And we're talking very small prints, right? Like the kind you'd see from a 4 or maybe 5-year-old kid.
Just appearing out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And mere minutes prior, that dust had been, completely undisturbed.
Right. And they obviously didn't bring a toddler with them on a ghost hunt.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
And the kicker is, no human being has actually lived in this entire village for 200 years.
It's completely abandoned.
Right. So as the team just stands there, totally frozen in disbelief, new handprints begin pressing into the dust, one after another, right before their eyes.
That is just, that's horrifying.
It's wild. And when they bring a journalist to the scene a little later, the exact same thing happens to the journalist's car. Fresh print in the dust, in a place completely devoid of the living.
It is an incredibly chilling image, honestly, because it plays directly into our deepest, most primal fears of the unseen.
Oh, 100%.
When the physical world reacts to something invisible, the brain just kind of short circuits. You don't know how to process it.
It literally gives me absolute goosebumps just talking about it.
Oh, yeah, me too.
But I want you to imagine you are standing there in the dark. You are in Kuldhara.
Kuldhara, yeah.
Located in the Indian state of Rajasthan, just about 17 kilometers from the city of Jaisalmer.
Mm-hmm.
And this place, it's widely known as India's most notorious haunted village.
And it is massive, too. We're not talking about a couple of shacks.
No, we are talking about over 400 abandoned stone houses. They've got perfectly laid out streets, temples, wells. It is a complete, sophisticated town.
Except it has absolutely no people.
Right. So the mission of our deep dive today is to take a stack of really fascinating sources we've gathered. We've got historical administrative records from the British era, modern scientific journals, and, centuries-old local lore.
A really good mix of perspectives.
Exactly. And we're going to use all this to figure out how a highly prosperous society of about 80,000 people allegedly vanished without a single trace overnight.
Which is a mystery that has baffled people for generations, honestly.
Yeah, because how does that even happen?
You have this massive, complex infrastructure left perfectly intact, which just completely defies conventional logic for how a civilization ends.
It totally does. And I want to say right now to you listening, you are about to hear a story where the psychological reality and the historical truth are actually far wilder than any paranormal legend.
Oh, definitely. The truth is much stranger here.
So as much as that handprint story sets the mood, we need to cut through the ghost stories. We need to find out what actually happened to these people.
Let's do it.
So what kind of concrete historical documentation do we actually have to anchor us here? Like, where do we start?
Well, we actually have surprisingly robust documentation, but to understand how an entire village, or really like an entire network of villages, becomes a ghost town, we first have to understand the sheer terror the residents were running from.
Okay, so there was a specific threat.
A massive one.
Yeah.
That brings us to a historical figure named Salim Singh.
Right, Salim Singh.
He was the Diwan, or the Prime Minister of Jaisalmer in the early 19th century. Now, Jaisalmer was a princely state, so they had a king, Rawal Maraj.
But the king wasn't really running the show, was he?
Not at all. The actual on-the-ground power rested entirely with Salim Singh.
The guy pulling all the strings behind the throne.
Exactly.
But looking at these historical accounts, his cruelty wasn't just, random political maneuvering.
Far from it. It stems from a really profound childhood trauma.
Which is always where these villain origin stories start.
Literally. So when Salim Singh was just 11 years old, he actually witnessed his father, Swarup Singh, who was also the Diwan at the time, by the way.
Oh, so it was a family position.
Right. He watched his father being betrayed and brutally murdered by royal officials.
Wow, at 11.
Yeah, 11. And watching your father assassinated at that age, it planted this deep, basically unquenchable thirst for vengeance in his mind.
You can see how that would twist someone.
Exactly. So when he eventually ascended to the position of Diwan himself, he just let that cruelty run unchecked.
Like zero restraint.
Zero. He executed anyone who slightly disagreed with him. Historical accounts actually suggest he took more lives within Jaisalmer than all of the kingdom's external enemies combined.
That is staggering. It's essentially like a cartel boss completely usurping the state apparatus, right?
Right.
Where the monopoly on violence is just held by one traumatized, angry individual.
That is a perfect analogy. And his methods of wealth extraction were just as ruthless as his violence.
Because he taxed them into the ground, right?
Yeah. His taxation policies made daily survival agonizing for local farmers and merchants. Through this relentless extortion, he amassed an astronomical personal fortune.
I saw the number in the sources. It was 2 crore rupees.
2 crore rupees at the time, yes. And to put that jargon into perspective for a modern listener, in an era where a few rupees could sustain a family for months, 2 crore is basically the equivalent of billions of dollars today.
Good grief.
It is essentially the GDP of a small nation sitting in one man's pocket. He built this magnificent, luxurious mansion for himself, while the puppet king, Rawal Mulraj, was completely powerless to stop him.
And just to be clear, for everyone listening, this isn't some exaggerated local myth we're talking about here. We have the receipts on this guy.
We absolutely do.
This is officially documented by British officers in formal administrative records between, I think, 1790 and 1820.
Yeah, we know exactly who Salim Singh was and exactly how he operated.
So he's essentially untouchable.
Totally untouchable. And it was during this period of extreme documented oppression that he turned his malicious attention toward Kuldhara.
Okay, here we go.
According to the enduring local legend, Salim Singh's wandering eyes fell upon the beautiful young daughter of Kuldhara's village chief.
And given his track record, he isn't going to just, politely ask for a courtship.
Not at all. He was infatuated, and he demanded her hand in marriage.
Just demanded it.
Yep. He told the village elders they had exactly 24 hours to surrender the girl, and if they refused, he would march his army into the village and slaughter every single man, woman, and child.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
If this community in Kuldhara was so prominent and wealthy, which we know they were, why didn't they just stand and fight?
A fair question.
Or petition the puppet king for help?
Mm.
Surely an established society of 80,000 people can put up some kind of resistance against one corrupt prime minister and his guards.
Yeah.
Right.
It is a totally logical question, but you have to look at who these people were structurally. They couldn't fight because they weren't soldiers.
Okay, who were they?
They were the Paliwal Brahmins. They originally migrated to the area in the 13th century, fleeing persecution from the Pali district of Rajasthan.
So they were already refugees, in a way.
Exactly. And culturally, they were peaceful scholars, traders, and farmers. They had absolutely no standing army.
Ah, I see.
But to truly grasp the tragedy of this 24-hour ultimatum, we need to understand the astonishing civilization they were being asked to abandon.
Because they didn't just build a couple of mud huts to survive out there. They built an absolute empire in the sand.
They really did. When they migrated to the kingdom of Jaisalmer, they established a network of 84 distinct villages, with Kuldhara acting as the primary cultural and economic hub.
84 villages in a desert.
And keep in mind the environment we are talking about here. The Thar Desert is India's largest desert landscape. Summer temperatures routinely soar to 40 or 50 degrees Celsius.
Which is, what, like 120 degrees Fahrenheit?
Easily. And there is practically no rainfall. It is just an ocean of shifting sand dunes.
I mean, think about trying to survive in 50-degree heat today without air conditioning. Doing that in the 13th century is unimaginable.
Yet they didn't just survive, they thrived. They engineered this revolutionary rainwater harvesting and agricultural technique known as the Kadeen system.
The Kadeen system.
Right. Modern researchers still study and praise this system for its scientific ingenuity today.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. How do you grow anything in sand? It sounds like magic. Explain the mechanics of this.
It's brilliant in its understanding of hydrology, honestly. They strategically use the natural slopes of the surrounding rocky hills.
Okay. Slopes.
Right. During the incredibly brief, sparse monsoon season, they would capture and store the runoff rainwater in designated low-lying areas.
But wouldn't it just sit on the surface and evaporate?
Normally, yes, it would instantly evaporate in that brutal desert sun. But the slopes force the water to slowly seep deep into the ground.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So by winter, whatever standing water was left on the surface would naturally evaporate, sure, but it left behind a moist, nutrient-rich soil bed that was perfectly primed for cultivation.
So they essentially figured out how to use the earth itself as a subterranean water tank.
That's exactly it.
They are hiding the water from the sun to keep the soil wet from underneath.
Yeah.
That is incredible. It's like trying to build a farming empire on Mars and actually succeeding.
It really is. And it was incredibly successful. Using this system, they harvested 2 full crop yields every single year.
2 crops in the heart of a barren desert.
2 full yields, yep.
They completely disrupted desert farming. And agriculture wasn't even their only source of wealth, was it?
Not at all. The Paliwal Brahmins were also highly sophisticated experts in international trade and banking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Kuldhara was situated directly on the primary trade route connecting Jaisalmer with the Sindh region, so the commercial trade of the entire kingdom passed directly through their hands.
Which means they're getting a cut of everything.
Everything. At its peak, Kuldhara was significantly wealthier than the royal city of Jaisalmer itself.
So what does this all mean? They have more money than the king, they have a monopoly on desert agriculture, and they are a peaceful society.
Right.
Which brings us to the most baffling part of the sources we looked at.
The logistics of leaving?
Exactly. How do 80,000 people across 84 thriving villages just walk away from an empire like that overnight without a single piece of information leaking to the tyrant Salim Singh?
Well, that seemingly impossible logistical hurdle is exactly what birthed the enduring curse and the modern paranormal investigations.
Because it just defies reason.
Completely. According to the folklore, on the night of Shravan Purnima, which corresponds to July 29, 1825, the entire population of all 84 villages made a collective decision.
Shravan Purnima, that's a festival, right?
It is a major full moon festival, yeah, meaning the community was already gathered together.
Convenient.
Right. So rather than surrender the girl and their honor, and knowing they couldn't win a physical war, they chose a radical third option. They vanished.
20,000 homes emptied simultaneously in the dark.
80,000 people supposedly packing whatever they could carry, just abandoning the fertile lands and the complex water wells they had engineered over centuries.
It's hard to even picture that.
The legend says they executed this with such flawless coordination that no one saw them leave. No warning ever reached Salim Singh.
Incredible.
And as they left under that full moon, they supposedly cast a dark curse upon Kuldhara, decreeing that no one would ever be able to resettle the land.
And practically speaking, it worked. I mean, for 2 centuries, it has been totally desolate.
Untouched.
The Rajasthan Tourism Board literally forbids entry after 6 in the evening today. You cannot go in there at night.
And that total centuries-long desolation is what invites the ghost stories.
Naturally.
Local lore is full of claims about phantom resurrections on full moon nights.
Like what kind of claims?
Oh, sounds of cattle, ringing temple bells, spinning flour mills, faceless, spectral figures all happening in an empty ruin.
Which sounds completely terrifying.
It does. And these widespread stories are exactly what drew the Indian Paranormal Society to conduct their investigation there.
Right, and looking at their reports, they make some genuinely spooky, tangible claims.
They definitely documented some strange things.
Yeah, the investigators reported sudden temperature drops down to -2 degrees Celsius.
In the middle of a desert.
Which is freezing. They documented shifting electromagnetic fields that seemed to respond to their questions. Motion sensors triggering in empty stone rooms. Unseen physical contact, floating luminous orbs. And most shockingly, they claimed a shadow-like figure caused a total CCTV system crash during playback, alongside audio of disembodied screams.
It's a lot of evidence.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Equipment failing, shadow figures, crashing CCTVs. I consider myself a logical person, but you can't just hand-wave away physical tech malfunctions.
It's hard to ignore, I agree.
How does conventional science even begin to address that kind of physical evidence?
Well, when you introduce equipment failures and environmental spikes, it certainly feels empirical. It gives the ghost stories a real veneer of hard science.
It does, yeah.
But while physics and psychology might struggle to definitively debunk a shadow on a tape or a sudden chill in the air right in that moment, conventional science absolutely can explain the state of the physical ruins themselves.
Okay.
And when science looks at the stones of Kuldhara, it completely rewrites the overnight disappearance myth.
Okay, wait. I hear what you were saying about the ruins, but an explanation for the stones doesn't explain a CCTV camera crashing in 2013. I'm still hung up on the tech failing in real time.
That is a totally fair point, and we are going to directly address the modern psychological phenomena and the equipment in just a moment, I promise.
All right, I'll hold you to that.
But to understand why people are seeing ghosts today, we have to definitively solve the physical mystery of the town's abandonment first. We have to know what actually happened to the people.
Fair enough. Walk me through the science of the ruins, then. What do the stones tell us?
Well, there was actually an intense debate in the scientific community relatively recently. In January 2017, a study published in the journal Current Science conducted a forensic analysis of the village ruins.
Oh, so they really got in there and looked at the damage.
Exactly. And they proposed that the specific damage patterns on the buildings perfectly matched the aftermath of a violent earthquake.
An earthquake.
Yeah. They noted that the 84 villages were situated near active fault lines, and they theorized that a massive quake destroyed the houses and killed the residents.
Whoa.
Which would explain the sudden abandonment and the enduring silence. Right.
So not a supernatural vanishing act, but a massive natural disaster. That would certainly explain why everyone disappeared at once. They didn't magically pack up and leave in silence. They were buried.
Right. It is a very neat theory that wraps everything up in a tidy geological bow. But a 2018 rebuttal systematically dismantled it.
Oh, really? How so? What did the rebuttal find?
The rebuttal pointed out 3 devastating flaws in the earthquake theory. First, the timeline.
The timeline was wrong.
Completely wrong. There was no earthquake in Jaisalmer anywhere near the legendary Exodus date of 1825.
Wait, none at all.
None. A major seismic event had struck in 1819, 6 years prior, and the next one didn't hit until 1905, 80 years later.
Wow. Okay, so a complete swing and a miss on the timeline.
Yeah. Second, earthquakes are non-selective. They don't just target specific communities based on a curse.
Obviously not, yeah.
Yet neighboring villages situated just outside the Paliwal Brahmin network reported absolutely no seismic devastation during that specific period.
Right. An earthquake doesn't check a zoning map to see who lives where before it strikes.
Exactly. But the most convincing evidence against the earthquake is found in the walls themselves.
What's wrong with the walls?
If you go to Kuldhara today, the masonry walls of the abandoned homes remain in direct contact with one another. They are perfectly aligned.
Oh, meaning they haven't shifted.
Right. There are no major structural cracks, no gaps, none of the telltale shearing or foundational shifting that a serious village-destroying earthquake would naturally produce.
Okay, so if there are no ghosts stealing people in the night, and there is no earthquake burying them in the rubble, what is the hard truth?
The hard truth is much slower.
How do you empty a city of 80,000 people without a sudden disaster?
You do it with a slow, agonizing socioeconomic collapse. The overnight miracle is a myth. The reality was a gradual strangulation.
A gradual strangulation. Okay, what caused it?
The true catalyst was a combination of a severe water crisis and unrelenting political oppression. We talked about their brilliant Cadian agricultural system earlier, right?
Right, how it relied on capturing water and letting it seep into the ground, hiding the water from the sun to keep the soil moist.
Exactly. Well, that entire system ultimately relied on the regional groundwater table being high enough to maintain that moisture.
Right, if the water table drops, the whole system fails.
And that's exactly what happened. About 300 years ago, a dam was built on the nearby Cock River. Over time, this dam severely restricted the water flowing downstream, which caused the regional water table to drop drastically.
Oh no. So the subterranean moisture that the Cadian system relied upon just dried up from underneath them.
Precisely. According to extensive research by Professor Syed Ali Nadim from Aligarh Muslim University, by the year 1815, most of Kuldhara's wells had already gone completely dry.
1815,
Wow!
Yeah.
The Cadian system failed because there was simply no water left to harvest. No water meant the crops failed. No crops meant the trade routes dried up.
It's a total domino effect.
And without the economic security of a bustling trade hub, the village became incredibly vulnerable.
Vulnerable to what?
Desert bandits, for one. They began routinely raiding Kuldhara, plundering whatever wealth was left, and even abducting local women for ransom.
That is horrific.
Yeah.
And while the environment is collapsing and bandits are raiding, Salim Singh is still sitting in his magnificent mansion demanding his cut, right?
Yep. As their natural resources evaporated, Salim Singh actually increased his tax demands.
You're kidding.
No. The Paliwal Brahmins were being violently squeezed from every possible direction, by nature, by criminals, and by their own government.
Wait, I was looking at the notes on the demographic data from the sources earlier. If they're being squeezed by a dry river and taxes, this totally destroys the legend of them all leaving together on July 29th, 1825.
It does. Completely.
Because I have the demographic data right here from Colonel James Todd's 1829 book, Annals and Antiquities of Rajasthan.
Oh, that's a great source.
Yeah, Todd actually recorded that the Paliwal Brahmins were choosing voluntary exile because returning meant Salim Singh would extort whatever they managed to earn elsewhere.
Exactly.
But look at this specific census detail. Todd recorded that by 1815, a full 10 years before the legendary overnight disappearance in 1825, Kuldhara's population had already plummeted from a peak of 1,588 residents down to just 800.
See, that data is the smoking gun right there.
Half the town had already packed up and left a decade before the supposed overnight curse.
Right.
And if you look at the later census records from 1890, it shows there were still 37 people living in the ruins of Kuldhara.
They didn't all leave at once.
No. So it wasn't a magic vanishing act at all. It was a slow, agonizing bleed. The overnight exodus is basically just a romanticized version of the very last families finally turning the lights out on a dying town.
That's exactly it. The legend condenses a messy, decades-long tragedy into a single dramatic night of defiance.
Which makes sense psychologically, I guess.
It does. It is much more comforting to believe your ancestors left proudly in one night to protect their honor, rather than admitting they were slowly starved out by a drying river and a greedy politician over 50 years.
Okay, that makes perfect historical sense. But this brings me right back to the question I asked earlier.
Ah, the ghosts.
Yes, the ghosts. If the overnight exodus is a myth and it was just a gradual economic migration spanning decades, why does everyone hear screams today?
Good question.
Why did the paranormal investigators capture massive temperature drops? And most importantly, how do you explain the fresh handprints on a car bonnet in the middle of the night that we started this whole discussion with? You promised me an answer.
I did. Okay, so to understand the modern hauntings and the failing equipment, we have to look at human psychology and, frankly, human greed.
Greed. Okay, I'm listening.
On the psychological side, there are two well-documented phenomena constantly at play in places like Kuldhara. The first is confirmation bias.
Okay.
When you arrive at a site that you have been told repeatedly is intensely haunted, your brain actively searches for evidence to confirm that pre-existing belief.
Right.
You find it in shadows and sudden drafts of wind and minor technological glitches that if you were sitting in your own living room, you would dismiss without a second thought.
Like your phone crashing. You just think, oh, my phone crashed.
Exactly. But there, it's a ghost.
So you are prying to see ghosts, so your brain forces you to see ghosts.
Exactly. The second phenomenon is pareidolia.
Pareidolia.
Yeah, this is our brain's deep-seated evolutionary tendency to find familiar patterns, especially faces and human shapes, in random, chaotic stimuli.
Oh, like seeing shapes in the clouds.
Yes, exactly. Think about how you might look at a cloud and clearly see a face, or look at an electrical outlet and see two eyes and a mouth.
Right.
So when the wind blows through a crumbling stone corridor, your pattern-seeking brain interprets it as a human scream. A strange shadow cast by moonlight looks like a headless torso.
Because your brain is trying to make sense of the chaos.
Right. It's incredibly telling that casual visitors who wander into Kuldhara without knowing its spooky reputation beforehand almost never report seeing or hearing anything unusual.
That is fascinating. But confirmation bias and pareidolia don't explain fresh handprints on a dusty car. You can't just imagine dust being physically moved.
No, you can't. But you also can't underestimate the ingenuity of modern treasure hunters.
Wait, treasure hunters, what do they have to do with this?
Remember how incredibly wealthy the Paliwal Brahmins were? They were the international bankers of the region.
Right, they had a ton of money.
So when they slowly abandoned the village over decades, rumors persisted that they had buried massive caches of gold and silver beneath their homes, planning to return for it when Salim Singh was gone.
Oh, I see where this is going.
These rumors drove thieves to continually infiltrate the ruins under the cover of night. And what is the absolute best way to keep curious locals, rival thieves, and the police away from your illegal midnight dig site?
You spread terrifying stories that the place is haunted by a murderous curse.
Oh my gosh, that is literally the plot of a classic Scooby-Doo episode.
It really is.
It's just some guys looking for buried gold trying to scare the meddling kids away.
Literally. And it's not just an academic theory either. It is documented fact.
Really?
Yes. In 1998, a local resident named Sumer Ram actually caught two foreign tourists, one from the Netherlands and one from Germany, sneaking around Kuldhara with metal detectors.
Tourists. Unbelievable.
They were actively digging up and stealing ancient gold and silver coins from the ruins.
Wow. What happened to them? Well, Sumaram immediately alerted the police. Both men were arrested and jailed, and the recovered artifacts are actually still sitting in the custody of the Jaisalmer court today.
That is wild.
Yeah, it was detailed in a great 2010 report in the Indian Express. And following that incident, the government finally realized they needed to physically protect the site.
So that's why they put up the walls.
Exactly. They constructed a boundary wall and appointed that same local hero, Sumaram, as the official watchman.
That is incredible. Okay, but I am still holding you to the handprints. We can't blame Dutch tourists in 1998 for handprints on a paranormal investigator's car in 2013.
Okay, fair. We can't. But we can look at the physical surroundings of the site today.
Right.
That specific terrifying story about the handprints originates from a single, unverified video from a paranormal team. And what the video conveniently leaves out of its narrative is the fact that there is a fully populated, living, breathing village located just 4 kilometers away from Kuldhara.
Oh, let me guess. Kids live there.
Local children and herders from that neighboring village routinely pass right through the ruins of Kuldhara during the day, grazing their animals.
Right.
It is entirely plausible and frankly highly probable that a local child simply touched the dusty car while the team was distracted or setting up their equipment.
Because kids touch everything.
Exactly. And the team only noticed the prints later in the dark, interpreting it as a real-time supernatural manifestation.
You know, it is just wild to me. People travel from all over the world bringing all this sophisticated electromagnetic equipment to Kuldhara, hoping to find a phantom in the dark.
When the real story is staring them right in the face.
Right. The real awe of this place has nothing to do with ghosts. It's the Paliwal Brahmins themselves. It's the sheer brilliance of the Kadian system, figuring out how to turn a blistering desert into a breadbasket.
Exactly.
It's the incredible wealth they built. And honestly, it's their collective courage. Even if it took years instead of a single night, they made a unified choice to abandon their ancestral homes rather than submit to the extortion and cruelty of a tyrant.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, I think it really encourages you to question how history is consumed and repackaged.
How so?
Well, it is a profound tragedy, right? A wealthy, resilient society completely erased by a combination of a drying river and political extortion.
Yeah.
Yet, over 2 centuries, that very real human suffering got rebranded into a spooky campfire story to sell tickets to tourists.
You really did.
It is a reminder to always look past the folklore to find the structural, often much more compelling, truths of history.
The truth is always richer than the myth. Always. And it leaves me with one final lingering thought for you to mull over.
What's that?
If a civilization as scientifically advanced, wealthy, and remarkably resilient as Kuldhara could be completely erased from the map by a drying river and a greedy leadership, what does that say about the permanence of our own modern cities today?